What if I told you that the oldest story on Earth, written on clay tablets thousands of years ago, already figured out some of our biggest modern problems? Not with some kind of magic, but with a pretty tough reality check about friendship, dealing with loss, and, what actually matters in the end. And that's exactly the question we're going to dig into today. We're diving deep into the Epic of Gilgamesh, which you could argue is not only the first epic hero story, but maybe the world's very first self-improvement guide. And when I say old, we're talking about 4,000 years. Just think about that for a second. The fact that we even have this story, that it survived all that time, tells you it must be about something really fundamentally human. Okay, so let's meet our hero, Gilgamesh. He's this incredible figure who's 2/3 god and 1/3 man, and at the beginning of the story, he's 100% jerk, a total tyrant. But his journey, that's what makes this whole thing so powerful. It's not really about his godlike strength, it's about his very human struggle to just become a better person. And get this isn't just some myth that was floating around. It's a real physical thing. The main version of the story was found carved into 12 clay tablets in this massive ancient library. And even cooler, most historians agree Gilgamesh was probably based on a real king. So this story, it's got its feet planted in reality. The entire epic is basically a masterclass in character development. Seriously, it shows us how Gilgamesh goes from being this powerful, abusive ruler to someone who finally understands what true leadership and legacy are all about. And his transformation, it really unfolds in 3 clear stages. First, you've got the tyrant who gets taken down a peg. Then comes a period of grand adventure that ends in just devastating loss. And finally, it's that loss that kicks off a desperate search for meaning. So how exactly does a tyrant change? Well, the gods send him an equal. They create this wild man, Enkidu, to go and challenge Gilgamesh. And they have this epic fight, and it's a draw. And in that moment, seeing each other as equals, they become the best of friends. Enkidu is the person who makes Gilgamesh better. Not weaker, but better. So together, they go on these incredible adventures, slaying monsters, being heroes. But after they tick off the gods one too many times, there's a price to pay. Enkidu is condemned to die. And this is the pivot point of the whole story. Gilgamesh is completely shattered. He just falls apart. And for the very first time, he's terrified of his own death. That terror sends him on a frantic quest across the world. He's looking for the one man who's supposed to be immortal, a guy named Utnapishtim. He thinks if he can just get the secret to eternal life, he can avoid this pain, this grief, forever. Now, when Gilgamesh finally finds Utnapishtim, he hears a story that might sound a little familiar. A tale of a giant flood, a man told to build a great boat, and the survival of humanity. And this is so cool because the version in Gilgamesh is way older than other famous accounts. It's a perfect example of how powerful stories travel and evolve across cultures. So, after all that, what does Gilgamesh actually learn? Well, his journey ends up revealing that this epic isn't just a story. It's basically a blueprint for how to live a meaningful life, with lessons that are just as sharp today as they were 4,000 years ago. And the beauty of it is that the story doesn't just preach at you, it shows you. It lays out these very real human problems. And through Gilgamesh's own mistakes and failures, it reveals some deep truths about how to live a good life. Let's break this down. The story gives us these epic lessons, and we can translate them into modern actions. Find your Enkidu means find that one friend who isn't afraid to call you out when you need it. Face death honestly. That's not about being gloomy. It's about living with purpose. Maybe you write a legacy letter about what you want to leave behind. Build the Walls of Uruk is about finding a meaningful project that's bigger than you, something that will last. And refuse shortcuts? Gilgamesh literally finds a plant of immortality and a snake steals it. The lesson is clear. Trade the cheap hacks for solid, disciplined habits. And all of this, all these lessons, they bring us to the epic's final, powerful conclusion, the surprising answer Gilgamesh finds at the very end of his painful journey. So here it is, the big switch. Gilgamesh starts his quest looking for immortality, right? An impossible goal that's totally driven by fear. He ends it by discovering the idea of legacy, a possible mission that's driven by purpose. He learns that you don't have to live forever to create something that does. He finally returns to his city, Uruk, and he doesn't have the secret to eternal life. He failed. But he comes back with something better: wisdom. He looks at the massive walls of his city, these walls he built that will protect his people long after he's gone, and he gets it. That is his immortality, his work, his contribution. Now, it's really easy to misunderstand this epic. A lot of people think it's just a story about a guy fighting monsters, but the monsters are really just symbols for his internal battles. And while the story is ancient, the core problems he faces, dealing with your ego, processing grief, finding your purpose, those haven't aged one bit. And in the end, that's the hero's real victory. Gilgamesh doesn't do the impossible and beat death. No one does. He does something much harder and much more profound. He beats denial. He stops running away from reality and chooses to build a meaningful life right in the middle of it. So the epic leaves us with a challenge, really, a question. Gilgamesh found his answer in the walls he built for his community. It kind of makes you think, right? Your story is still being written. So what will your walls say?